I am sensible, ladies and gentlemen, of the fact that I have been given the privilege of the last word in this debate. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, a fine text which is accepted by more than one religious tradition. And for the avoidance of doubt, I do not think it should be against the law to insult dead soldiers. I do not think it should be against the law to deny or to take issue with claims about the Holocaust. I am dubious about the defamation laws as they have traditionally existed in my country, and I am very dubious about the idea of red lines that prevent people from even the most vicious and scurrilous mockery. But one of the gentlemen in this audience tonight has mentioned the possibility of an irreconcilable difference of paradigms. I think that is the phrase he used. That would be most regrettable. What I want is to find some basis for mutual toleration and even some basis for the common identification and advocacy of certain interests which we all share as human beings. Once you start talking about irreconcilable differences, you are on a continuum that leads towards interethnic civil war. And let me say as my concluding point, or perhaps an extended final point, that you are weak. There are 1.5 billion Muslims in the world, but historically you have been weak. Your first expansion in the 7th century was into a world which had been ravaged by 25 years of war between the Byzantine and Persian empires. And although you took away Egypt and Syria from Christendom, and although you took away North Africa and eventually Spain for a while, you beat your heads for 300 years against the core territories of the Byzantine Empire, and there was a rollback of many of your conquests, and you became decadent and corrupt, while the Byzantine Empire, the Christian Empire, remained essentially sound. And although the Byzantine Empire eventually came under pressure, that was because a new people had attached itself to Islam, the Turks. And when the Crusades rolled eastward, we took Jerusalem. We beat you again and again. And although we lost the Crusades, that was not because you defeated us, it was because we Westerners, we Franks, lost interest in the matter and fell out with the Greeks, and we stabbed the Greeks in the back and allowed you to take Constantinople away from us. And the next time you rolled forward into Central Europe was in the 16th and 17th centuries, when we were divided in the wars of religion between Protestants and Catholics. But as soon, after 1648, as soon as we had settled those differences, you rolled no further westward. Indeed, we began to roll you eastward. And we took back the territories you'd taken from us in Central Europe. And to bring it into the present, every stand-up war between a Christian power and an Islamic power has ultimately been lost by the Islamic powers. I do not agree with the Iraq War. I do not agree with either of the Iraq wars. I rather wish my country had had no foreign policy whatsoever since 1900. But there is no doubt that in any of those stand-up conflicts, one side was the victor. Now, I do not want conflict to last for all eternity between Christendom and Islam. I do not want the conflicts that do exist. But I do beseech you to consider that if you start talking about irreconcilable differences of paradigm, you are not declaring a war that you will lose. By no means are you doing that. but you are proceeding onto a continuum that leads to that declaration, a war that will be terrible for all of us, and a war which I do believe you will lose. And so I come back to the point I made at the beginning of my comments, which is that if you want to do well in this country, and not well merely in the material sense, which many of you do eminently, if you want to do well in this country, it is a good idea to embrace the English constitutional tradition and to hold the admittedly corrupt and evil rulers of this country to account, and not to talk about red lines and irreconcilable differences of paradigm. And so with those closing thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, I will thank you for the great indulgence you have shown me this evening when I have spoken so bluntly, and give the floor back.
Thank you very much to the panel. That ends our second part of our discussion. We now move on to the third part of our event, which is the dinner. I've got two quick announcements about the dinner. We've got more people than tickets.